to the German language distance learning program for beginners. This is a joint program conducted by the Indira Gandhi National Open University in collaboration with Max Müller Bhavan, the German Cultural Center in India. Herzlich willkommen zum Fernkurs Deutsch als Fremdsprache für Anfänger. Ein gemeinsames Programm zwischen der Indira Gandhi National Open University und dem Goethe-Institut Max Müller Bhavan, dem Deutschen Kulturzentrum in Indien.
You're listening to Radio D, the radio language course of Redaktion D. A joint project of the Goethe Institute and Deutsche Welle Radio. The author is Herat Mese.
Hello again. Welcome to episode 3 of your German course Radio D. Today we'll be telling you a bit more about the people in our story and where it's playing. First though, listen again to a scene that you already know. Do you remember how in the last episode the phone rang in a house in the country and the caller wanted to speak to a young man there? Do you remember his name?
Philipp? Ja, der ist da. Einen Moment bitte. Philipp!
Ja?
Telefon!
Was?
Telefon!
Wer?
So, we've caught up again with Philipp. He's one of the main characters in this German course. Hello, Philipp. Would you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hallo.
Oh, great. Do you think you could deign to say a bit more?
Hallo, ich bin Philipp.
Oh, well, let's just leave it at that. His mind's obviously on something else right now, so he's not very talkative. When Philipp arrived at his country destination, he greeted a woman by her first name.
Tag, Hanne.
When she was answering the phone, the woman said her first name and her surname.
Hanne Frisch, guten Tag.
Frau Frisch, Hanne Frisch, is another protagonist in this course. Now, there's a clue coming up about how she and Philipp are connected. Remember, this is how they greeted each other in episode 1.
Hallo Philipp. Tag, mein Junge, willkommen.
Tag, Hanne.
Good day, my boy. Tag, mein Junge, is the typical way a mother will greet her son, even if the boy, der Junge, is more than 20 years old. So, Frau Frisch is Philipp's mother. And I happen to know that she's keen to introduce herself, but just to be polite, I'll ask her. Frau Frisch, would you like to introduce yourself to our learners of German?
Aber gern. Also, ich bin Frau Frisch. Hanne Frisch.
Philipp addresses his mother by her first name, which is quite usual in some German families these days. Only when he wants to end the discussion, he calls her Mutter, a bit formally. But that doesn't stop Frau Frisch from telling him what she thinks.
Mutter, ich fahre nach Berlin.
Was, nach Berlin? Sofort?
The reason Philipp abruptly broke off his visit to his mother was a phone call from Paula, a very pleasant person in our German by Radio course. Hello, Paula. Tell our listeners a bit about yourself, would you?
Okay. Ich heiße Paula. Ich bin Redakteurin. Redakteurin bei Radio D in Berlin.
Thanks. Quite a bit of information there. So, her name's Paula.
Ich heiße Paula.
She also tells us that she's a journalist.
Ich bin Redakteurin.
A journalist with a radio station called Radio D.
Redakteurin bei Radio D.
And you most likely also caught that the Radio D news department is in Berlin, the German capital.
Redakteurin bei Radio D in Berlin.
And Philip wants to join Paula at Radio D as soon as possible. She's asked him to hurry, and if you ask me, Philip is quite fond of Paula. First, he has to drive his car to Munich in the south of Germany, and from there he intends to fly to Berlin, which is in the north. Let's join Philip first on his drive. He's listening to the radio, a favourite pursuit of his. By chance, the news he's hearing on his car radio precisely reflects his own situation. And that'll help you guess what the news is about.
Radio D.
Das Wetter. Tief Tim bringt heftige Regenfälle und Gewitter nach Bayern.
Regen, Gewitter. Das merke ich auch so.
That was the weather report for Bavaria, where Philip's on the motorway. And isn't that always the way? You're in a special hurry and something's sure to slow you down, like rain and a thunderstorm while you're driving. That's not just very unpleasant, it also forces you to drive slowly. Not even the radio's a consolation then. Listen again for the station Philip is tuned to.
Radio D.
Das Wetter.
It's Radio D, and Radio D's Current Affairs Department is the setting for this German language course. You already know that Paula's a journalist there, and you've also heard her colleague, Ayhan. Hello, Ayhan. Let the listeners hear you say a bit more, would you?
Oh, sorry. Entschuldigung. Mein Name ist Ayhan. Ich arbeite auch bei Radio D.
Ow! Ayhan could use a new swivel chair, or at least put a drop of oil on the one he's got. Then he wouldn't have to excuse himself to you.
Oh, sorry. Entschuldigung.
And our professor also works in that current affairs department, who's just now... Oh, hang on a moment. And what's that? That can only be...
Professor. Immer der Professor. Und ich? Und ich? Ich bin auch bei Radio D.
Yep, that was Josefina, another of the characters who plays in our course. She doesn't work in current affairs, she does other jobs. You'll get to know her better. But now it really is time for our professor. There's a lot to explain today, right?
Oh, yes, indeed. Pretty hard to choose, too. But I didn't think we were supposed to be looking at any details of the German language this episode.
Und nun kommt unser Professor.
Radio D.
Gespräch über Sprache.
Listeners, I'd like to ask you to concentrate on some complete statements about introductions.
Fine. So let's hear again how everyone we've met on the course introduced themselves.
Right. Let's start with the not-so-talkative Philip. First he just says Hallo and then adds Hallo, ich bin Philipp.
Hallo. Hallo, ich bin Philipp.
You know, hallo is an everyday sort of greeting, and that fits with the fact that he introduces himself by his first name.
Hallo. Hallo, ich bin Philipp.
That's right. Hallo is what friends would say. Philip's mother, though, introduces herself by her first name and her surname.
Hanne Frisch. Ich bin Hanne Frisch. Also, ich bin Frau Frisch. Hanne Frisch.
It is pretty unusual, though, to use the title Frau together with the surname to introduce oneself.
That's right. The usual thing is to say, mein Name ist.
Mein Name ist. Mein Name ist Frisch.
And you can use that with first names and surnames. Ayhan, for example, introduces himself by his first name.
Mein Name ist Ayhan.
Mein Name ist Ayhan.
The same goes for the phrase ich heiße. It can be used too just with the first or the surname or both. Many young people like using only the first name, and Paula's one of them.
Ich heiße Paula.
Ich heiße Paula.
So, listeners, you've now heard 4 ways you can introduce yourself. Let's hear them again.
Ich bin Philipp.
Ich bin Hanne Frisch.
Mein Name ist Ayhan.
Ich heiße Paula.
To end this episode, here are the scenes you heard once more. First, the ways our protagonists introduce themselves.
Hallo. Hallo, ich bin Philipp.
Also, ich bin Frau Frisch. Hanne Frisch.
Okay. Ich heiße Paula. Ich bin Redakteurin. Redakteurin bei Radio D in Berlin.
Oh, sorry. Entschuldigung. Mein Name ist Ayhan. Ich arbeite auch bei Radio D.
And now let's rejoin Philip on his unpleasant car journey.
Radio D.
Das Wetter.
Tief Tim bringt heftige Regenfälle und Gewitter nach Bayern.
Regen, Gewitter. Das merke ich auch so.
And Josephine complaining that I didn't mention her.
Professor. Immer der Professor. Und ich? Und ich? Ich bin auch bei Radio D.
So, will Philip make it to Munich Airport and then to Berlin? Join us for the next episode to find out.
Bis zum nächsten Mal, liebe Hörerinnen und Hörer.
You've been listening to Radio D, a German course of the Goethe Institute and Deutsche Welle Radio.
Besten Dank, dass Sie unseren Deutschkurs für Anfänger eingeschaltet haben. Detaillierte Informationen über den Kurs bekommen Sie im Studienzentrum, Regionalzentrum und im Max-Müller-Pavillon. Thank you for tuning in to our German language program for beginners. Detailed information regarding this program is available at your study center, regional center and at the Max-Müller-Pavillon.